This is John Cole with OKRaw.com. Today we have another exciting episode for you, and in this episode I'm going to share with you guys the superfood that you can buy at every grocery store that might even cost literally $1. I got these for $1 at the local dollar store, but even places like Walmart may sell this for $1.50. Alright, so it's a little bit more money than $1, like I said in the title, but nonetheless, this is one superfood that you do not have any clue about that you guys should be eating on a regular basis. I don't care if you guys eat a junk food diet, you guys should include these guys. If you guys are on a plant-based diet, nutrient-dense diet, you definitely need to include these guys. But I'm going to share with you guys the best way to include these fruits or flower buds in your diet. What they are capers, and they come in many different ways and different sizes. And I'm going to show you guys all the whole download in this episode, including how to eat them so that you can get the majority of the health benefits without all the excess sodium that they're usually packed in. So the first thing I want to say is that I want you guys to eat these guys. These are known as capers. I mean, they come in little bottles like this, and they're usually packed in vinegar like this. Now, these are the Caper Buds Non-Preel. And what these are basically unopened flower buds that are harvested and picked. And I'm going to download some secrets to you guys. Number one, you want to get the smallest caper buds as possible, because the studies that I'll be going over later in this episode show that the smaller buds contain more of the beneficial phytonutrients and micronutrients than the larger buds or the caper berry fruit that will form after the flower buds. The next thing we're going to tell you guys is that most of the time they are packed in like vinegar and water, acetic acid with sea salt. And these are not the recommended way to purchase them. The recommended way to purchase them, because number one, these are heat processed for those of you guys that want to maintain your raw foods label. You want to do that? That's fine. You can do that. Then you want to get these guys. These are the ones packed in salt. So this is a more traditional method of preservation. They're basically sun-dried for like 2 days and then packed in salt. Now, salt is not a health food, in my opinion. While we do need to get sodium in our diet, which salt does contain some sodium, salt has far too much sodium, and I prefer to get my sodium from whole natural plant foods, okay? So I'm going to show you guys how to remove the salt out of these guys, plus I'm going to show you guys some of the brands of the caper berries that I get. Over on this side, we have caper buds, and these, once again, packed in like water and vinegar, acetic acid. This is packed in salt. These are the small ones. This is the ITEL brand capers from Spain, available at a local international market near me. And then these are some actually capers that are a lot larger, so they're less expensive when they're larger, but they're not as nutrient dense or have as many valuable phytonutrients as I'll be sharing with you guys. And these are actually from Sicily. These come in smaller sizes as well. This farm is one amazing farm. This one is actually labeled OK Vegan on the label there. And this is La Nicosia Farm, caper berries and salt. These are actually purchased from Amazon. I'll put a link down below, to the link for these guys. This is the 1,000 gram size. These are now out of stock. They may be in stock when you're seeing this, but the 500 gram is in stock. So that's really cool. And these are like the official real ones. This farm like literally grows in volcanic soil on literally an island. Super high quality caper berries that are sun-dried, raw all the way, all right? So why am I so excited about caper berries? Well, here's the thing. Most of you guys know that olives are a very important source of polyphenols. If you follow Dr. Gundry online, he advocates drinking olive oil to get your polyphenols. Now, I do not agree with drinking olive oil for your polyphenols. Number one, most olive oils are garbage, crap, highly processed, don't have a lot of polyphenols. That being said, my goal is to get the polyphenols from the food, so I'd much rather eat whole olives, which actually I do eat whole olives for the polyphenols and all the other beneficial fiber, small amounts of fat that are contained within the olive. If you guys ever have an olive tree in front of you, guys pick an olive and try to eat it. I've done that to a few friends that I've hung out with because they've never had a fresh one. It's bitter in your mouth and it's nasty and you spit it out. So most people would never want to eat olives, but then they found through curing them properly, you can remove some of the bitter toxins and make it healthier for you. That being said, olive leaves are also very bitter, and they make olive leaf extracts that are antiviral, antifungal, antibacterial, all these other kind of things that are good for you if you guys want the bitters. That being said, despite some of the bitters being gone out of olives, they're still very healthy, and the same thing with capers. I've never had the opportunity to try a fresh caper bud or caper berry, but I hear they're very bitter, and one of the reasons why I like the capers is because they are related to the brassica family of plants, in the same category. Like, people don't know that moringa is also a brassica family plant, contains the beneficial properties of the brassica plants that are anti-aging and anti-cancer. Things like nasturtiums are also known as a poor man's caper. So if you grow nasturtiums, the flowers, yes, you could eat the unopened seed pods, which kind of like probably have some benefits like the capers. You could also ferment them like they do with the caper flowers, which are amazing. But because the capers and the olives grow in the Mediterranean, which is a very harsh climate, right? I surmise, especially living in the desert myself, that a lot of desert plants really have to create a lot of phytochemicals and polyphenols and different compounds to protect themselves from the elements, from the sun, from the lack of water if they don't get water. And these help them live a nice, long, healthy life and reproduce to make their flowers, their buds, and their seeds that can be so health beneficial for us. So people around the Mediterranean for thousands of years have eaten the capers, and it is available to all of us at a grocery store near you, but most people just never buy them. I want you guys to buy your caper berries. Some of my favorite ways to use caper berries, I don't just take and shove them in my mouth. They're pretty strong, and I'll taste test them in a little bit. I like to add them to things like soups and salads. I've seen YouTube videos where they add it to cooked chicken. Now, I don't recommend adding it to cooked chicken because the benefit of caper berries is going to be offset by the negative effects of the chicken, in my personal opinion. But adding some caper berries to nutrient-dense plant foods such as a leafy green-based salad or a soup, made out of vegetable juices like I make, is definitely the way to go to get some of these unique compounds into you. If you guys have allergies, the capers are highest in quercetin, which is said to help, curtail the allergy symptoms that you guys might be having. Of course, you could take a quercetin supplement, but my goal is to get my nutrients from the food and not take a supplement unless I can't get the nutrients from the food. That's why I want you guys to include the capers. These are the caper buds that are unopened right over on this side, and I was recently introduced to caper berries, which are these guys here. These are actually from my friend's farm in Phoenix, Arizona, and these are the whole size once they get bigger. So if the buds are allowed to grow bigger, they turn into these little fruits here that you guys can see inside here. They have a little stem on them. They look almost like the size of an olive, but they have all these little seeds in there, and if they're picked when they're young, then the seeds are crunchy and chewable. You can chew them up and just swallow them. And actually, there's also studies showing that there's benefits of the seed oil, but when you eat the seeds, you get some of the oil in smaller quantities. Now, there is a difference between caper berries and caper buds, and you guys are going to learn through some of the scientific studies that I have today the benefits of these guys and which one of these guys you should be eating. All right, so I want to go over 3 studies for you guys right here that I printed out. Some of these are actually quite new, came out in like 2021 and whatnot, but it's really some cool info, and I geek out on studies and stuff. But I'm just going to read you some parts. So this study, all links are down below if you guys want to review them yourself. Pharmacological effects of Caperus spinosa L, and that's these guys, the capers, and it says medicinal plants have been known as one of the most important therapeutic agents since ancient times. During the last 2 decades, much attention has been paid to the health-promoting effects of edible medicinal plants because of the multiple beneficial effects and negligible adverse effects. Caperus spinosa L is one of the most common medicinal plants used widely in different parts of the world to treat a number of human diseases. So yeah, they've been using the caper berry since ancient times. In ancient times, they did not have drug manufacturers making drugs and giving vaccines and all these crazy things. They had the food, and the ancient peoples had to learn which foods help which health conditions. Luckily nowadays, that would not be, scientific, just believing in the old ways, although I do tend to trust that a lot because that's all they had. That being said, science is now proving the old ways that were beneficial and the health benefits. So let's go ahead and continue. Recently, a wide variety of evidence has shown that this plant possesses different biological effects, including antioxidant, anti-cancer, antibacterial effects. Phytochemical analysis shows C. spinosa has the highest quantities of bioactive constituents, including polyphenolic compounds, which are responsible for its health-promoting effects, although many of these substances are present in low concentrations and significant changes in their overall content occur during processing. But what I want to show you guys on the back of the study, you guys can see all that, but literally, like, this is the chemical class, compounds, and analytical methods used to determine the substance occurring in capers. And there's like different kind of alkaloids, flavonoids, glucosinolates, that's the good stuff in the cruciferous family of plants that we really want to get into us. And it talks about how they've identified all them. And it is these very compounds that I personally believe, and science also supports, can have many beneficial health benefits. I know some of you guys might think, John, if you can't make a meal out of it, you shouldn't be eating it. And, you know, surely I could not necessarily make a meal out of caper berries, but I don't not think that is a good rule that some raw food teachers teach, you know, to basically teach you what to eat. You know, I think in ancient times they didn't make meal out of caper berries, and it's all right if you can't make a meal out of something. You should still eat it in small quantities to get a little bit of benefits rather than none. So, you know, some of the things I've learned in raw foods has been maybe not as accurate as I would like, and I see things differently now than the more young, impressionable raw foodists that had no experience. I've been doing this diet now for 26 years, and a big part of my recent dietary changes are for more of these plant polyphenols and bioactive compounds that new research is showing can be so beneficial for us. And once again, you could do this raw if you want to keep them raw, as I will share you guys in a minute. This study just came out, 2021. Let's see, Plant of the Millennium, Caper, chemical composition and medicinal uses. All right, so we're just going to go ahead and summarize some of the abstract. Main body. The aim of this mini review was to outline the most significant health benefit of caper in both traditional and modern pharmaceutical medicine. So they're literally comparing the capers to pharmaceutical medicine, and that's probably why these studies come out, is they want to identify what compound in the capers are so beneficial so that then they could put it into a drug so that you could get the benefits of the drug and they could make money off it. Just like, you know, originally aspirin was from willow bark, and now they sell aspirin, right? I want you guys to eat the whole food to get some of these nutrients in smaller quantities, to get some of these benefits, you know, to you in its natural form without any kind of drug companies being involved. All right, so let's continue. Traditional application of capers is for treatment of headache, fever, convulsions, diabetes, toothache, menstruation, skin disease, kidney disease, liver disease, rheumatism, ulcers, hemorrhoids, and sciatica. Fruits and leaves have anti-diabetic effects. Fruits have anti-obesity, cholesterol-lowering, and anti-hypertensive effects. Roots, fruits, stem, barks, and shoots have antimicrobial effects. Leaves, roots, and fruits contain anti-inflammatory activity, and aerial parts have anti-thiopatostatic effects. Yeah. The conclusion says, on the basis of phytochemical advantages and pharmaceutical benefits, capers show it's important as one of the most notable medicinal plants for prevention and treatment of various diseases. However, more research are needed on the usage of capers, especially in modern pharmaceutical science. All right, so it says, literally, capers are one of the most notable medicinal plants for prevention, that's where I'm coming from, and treatment of various diseases. You know, I'm not going to tell you guys to eat capers to get rid of your whatever condition that is. I will tell you guys you want to eat a nutrient-dense diet full of these beneficial bioactive compounds along with other foods, but more importantly, don't eat the foods that are causing the situation in the first place. All right, we're going to go down to the conclusion on this paper. Natural products such as medicinal and aromatic plants have been used as traditional remedies because of their amazing healing characteristics. Caper is one of the most important medical plants in Iranian, Chinese, Unani, Ayurvedic, Greco-Arabic medicinal systems. The phytochemicals identified in this plan were lipids, flavonoids, alkaloids, saponins, tannins, lignans, glucocorticoid, 6-S-hydroxy-3, oxy-ion glucosides, and polyphenols. Caper spinosa has anthelamidic, cytotoxic, anti-inflammatory, anti-arthritic, antioxidant, antimicrobial, cardiovascular, condoprotective, anti-diabetic, hyperlipidemic, anti-allergenic, antihistaminic, immunomodulatory, anti-carcinogenic, and anti-hepatotoxic activities. So, I mean, literally, the caper berries you could buy for $1 is a very powerful food, yet how many of you guys have already been eating capers? probably not too many. I want you guys to go out and next time you're at the grocery store or health food store, buy some capers and do you guys yourselves a favor. All right, we're down to the last study. This is the study they got most excited about even over the other two because it talked about fresh versus the different ways of preserving the capers that will be available near you to purchase. So the title is LC-DAD-ESI-MS/MS assessment of the bioactive compounds in fresh and fermented caper buds and berries. So they talked about the buds and the berries. We got both of them here, so we're going to learn about them and which one's better. It says the main objective of this study was to compare bioactive compounds and other important quality parameters of fresh and fermented caper buds and berries. Fresh samples were fermented using dry salt and brine techniques, and it says the higher phenolic content was determined in the fresh and fermented buds. So the buds had more phenolic content than the berries. So if you want more polyphenols and whatnot, you want to get the caper buds, not the berries. All right. Moving on. When total phenolics and antioxidant properties were evaluated, it was observed that they were better preserved in the dry salted sample than the brine sample. And that's what I really want to know. Dry salted contains more phenolics, polyphenols, and different phenol groups than the wet kind that is normally available near you. It's kind of a little bit harder to find these ones that are salt cured, all right? So we're going to go down to the conclusion. The total amount of phenolic content in caper buds was found to be quite higher than of the berries. The loss of the phenolic compounds of the capers treated by the dry salting method was determined to be less than the brining method. A total of 19 phenolic compounds have been identified in caper buds and berries. Although flavanols decreased during fermentation, quercetin, camphorol, and isohamartin compounds increase significantly in both buds and berries after fermentation. So, you know, every different compound, some could have reactions during the fermentation and actually go up, so the fermented food can be more beneficial, but of course some things will go down. So it's, you know, people always want to say, what's better, fresh or, you know, fermented? And it depends what compound you are seeking. You know, so that's why I strive to include, you know, different kinds of foods in different states and get them into me. So, you know, on this table, table 2B, which is really cool, on the back, they go over some of the different compounds. So, for example, quercetin in the buds were 2.58 in the fresh buds, but then if you go over to the brine buds, it's 12.14. So actually it went up. And if you go to the dry salted, it's 14.35. So it's even more than the brine. The brine is only 2 points down below, but that's still significantly higher than the quercetin of the fresh buds. Of course, other nutrients can go down because there's different forms of quercetin in there as well. You know, but in general, you can see the berries. It compares the berries brined and dry salted versus the fresh, brined and dry salted buds. And in general, the buds went out, and in general, if you can't get the fresh ones, the dry salted are the way to go. So up till now, you guys learned the benefits of like the capers are like so many different things it can help you with. I want you guys to get these, you know, different compounds in you. Plants are nothing but chemical factories. They create chemicals for themselves so that they can reproduce and live and thrive in especially harsh climates where I believe the nutrients to be even higher than more mild climates, like the tropics. So it's very important to include some of these Mediterranean foods. Now, most of these you know, capers are grown in the Mediterranean region, the different islands, you know, of Italy and Cyprus and around Spain and whatnot. But you guys can grow these if you guys live in the Southwest desert. You know, there's a lady that grows the capers in Phoenix that I met, and there's a lady that sells caper plants in the Phoenix area that will also grow in Las Vegas. And I would encourage you guys to start a caper farm because they are so nutritious, and literally otherwise they got to come over from the Mediterranean. So what I'm going to do with you guys now is show you guys how I eat these guys to get them into me and to get them you know, the best way possible to remove some of the sodium content because they're all packed in, vinegar and salt. Well, vinegar for the ones that are brined. So I think first I'm going to go ahead and taste test some of these guys. So first I'm going to test these guys, which are actually raw because they're from my friend. She did not heat process these. She just basically naturally fermented these guys. These are grown in Phoenix. These are the berries, not the buds, that are more nutritious. And so we're going to go ahead and pop one out. Phoenix grown caper berry. And this basically looks like an olive with a little stem on it. We're going to go ahead and bite into it. It's soft and melts in your mouth. Woo, gives you a kick. She packed these in vinegar. You guys look close. There's some seeds in there and they're quite small. You could chew them up and they just go right in. You don't eat the stem. I normally would just chop these up and add them to soups and salads raw. I do not cook these guys because I don't lose any more antioxidants. These are quite vinegary. So on hers I just basically take them out and eat them, but I've been using them sparingly because I can't get more. But what I do is you can go out to your local better international market or maybe like a Mediterranean market. I got these caper berries at the local international marketplace, although I also hear that Whole Foods will sell organic caper berries such as this. These are vacuum packed and these have been heat processed. So if you guys are on a raw diet, you don't want to eat these guys. But you guys can also find these packed in salt, which I believe to be extremely rare because I haven't found them in the US anyways, packed in salt. Maybe you got to order them if you're in Europe. So now I'm going to show you guys actually how to remove the salt and get some of the salt out of these guys, as well as some of the vinegar, because I just want caper flavor. I don't want a vinegar flavor, but the vinegar and the salt is used for preservation. Let's go ahead and open this guy up. All right. Now these are packed in basically vinegar salt brine solution. So the first step is we got to get rid of the brine solution. So we're going to go ahead and let that drain out. I usually pour this away. And what I do is I then take a mason jar. I will then take all the capers after I've drained them all out of the brine they come in, and then put them in my mason jar. And I basically will fit 2 of these jars into one. There's a price on these guys. They're like $4, and this is for 15.9 ounces from the ITEL brand caper berries from Spain. The ingredients are caper berries, water, vinegar, and salt. Alright, so once we got these all in the jar, what I'm going to do now is we're going to go ahead and take some distilled water. So now I basically pour distilled water in here. And so when you have these sealed, these are like shelf stable. You know, they don't need to be in the fridge. But what I'm going to do now is once I open it, and we're going to go ahead and submerge these guys in water. So you want them all underneath the water level. We're then going to go ahead and put the lid on there. We got a Food Saver mason jar adapter so I could suck a vacuum on it. And we got the Tribest vacuum pump. We're going to go ahead and put the pump on the top. Press the button. What's happening now is that you guys could see some bubbles coming out of the container. And it's basically pulling all that excess oxygen out of the container and literally pushing the water in, which will then push the salt out into the water. So what I do then is I will date this on the top of the jar. I will then seal the jar. Now you have to refrigerate this. I put this in my fridge and I might let it sit for like literally a month. And then in a month I'll probably take these, I'll drain out the water, and then I could eat them. And so I let them sit in the water to get some of the extra salt out. Now be aware, you know, when you're doing this technique, you may be also losing some of the nutrients into the water. I don't choose to drink the water because it still has that vinegar salty flavor personally, but I'll take a little nutrient loss, which is very little, provided your caper berries are whole, to remove the salt, which I believe to be worse than losing a little bit of the nutrients that you might not have had anyways. Now the next technique I use, or you could use the same technique on the caper buds that are in salt. Just pack them in a jar, pull a vacuum on the jar. If you guys can't pull a vacuum on the jar, I highly recommend that because that pulls out the salt faster than just soaking in the jar. You could surely soak them in the jar as well. I want to do things the best way possible, and that for me is under vacuum. You could get vacuum lids on you know, your big box, you know, store online, used for fermentation with little pumps for like as cheap as like 12 bucks. All right. So the next thing is we're gonna go ahead and try these kind of capers, and these are the caper buds. This is the kind I started with. This is the kind I prefer the most. Now these are packed in salt. So the tip is, if you guys go to a store that are selling these packed in salt, pick up every jar, right, and look at the jar, man. I'm buying capers packed in salt for the capers, not for the salt. Some jars will have a lot more salt than the caper buds. So I always pick through all the jars. You get the jar that has the least amount of salt in there, because that's some expensive salt, all right? So let's go ahead and open this up, and we'll just go ahead and pour one or two out. This is what they look like. I'll then go ahead and I will soak these, and I'll show you guys how to do them, but I want to try it for you guys. So eating it, I'm just getting a big salt hit. Like it's a big salt hit, like it's pretty salty. I taste a little bit of flavor from the capers, but it's really muted by the salt. My goal is to not have extracted salt even when it's with my capers, but to remove it. And I'll show you guys how to do that in a second. But next I want to show you guys these capers. I literally just got these today, and we're going to go ahead and open these, and I want to try these on camera. Now there are other studies that I did not mention, you know, or print out today, that talked about the benefits of the smaller caper buds than the larger ones. So the smaller caper buds have much more polyphenol antioxidant activity than the larger ones. So here's some of the larger ones here, and let me show you guys my salt reduction technique. First salt reduction technique is I get like a sieve with large holes, and I pour out some capers. You guys can see it's literally like just totally in salt, right? I then shake this around the sieve a whole bunch, because I want to get the salt off. Like my goal is to not eat capers with the salt. So you guys can see just doing that, I got a lot of salt up. But now I want to remove more salt, so we'll show you guys how to do that in a second. But first I want to try one of these caper berries. We're going to go ahead and brush the salt off. Now even if you brush the salt off the outside, it's still going to be quite salty because the salt has absorbed into the capers, the caper buds. And these caper buds are a lot bigger. We're going to go ahead and try this and see if this is done the traditional method. I've looked up the farm and saw how they do it. They have videos online, which is really cool. Wow. This one's saltier, but definitely more mild. I could taste the capers a lot better. Big salt hit though. Gotta remove the salt. So how do we do it? Once again, we got a mason jar. We're gonna go ahead and put all these capers in the jar. Once again, we did remove the salt. Next, we're gonna go once again pour in the water. And once again, we're gonna go ahead and pull a vacuum on the jar. Now because these capers are in salt, they're a lot saltier than the ones that are brined in the vinegar. I will do this technique like a few times. So like I might let it sit in the jar for like a day or two, and then I'll drain out the water again. And I'll show you how to do that. We'll just drain out the water, no big deal. I'll let it sit like this, shake it up, let the salt get pulled out of the capers because it's under vacuum. Lift this off. So we got some salt out. We'll pour that water out. I usually let it soak for like a day or two. And once again, this is in the fridge only. And then we can go ahead and once again put more water in there to pull more of the salt out. Because the water can only absorb so much salt. Once it gets to that peak amount, it won't absorb more. So I want to have the amount of sodium in the water, the least amount as possible. And I'm also using distilled water so it could pull out more minerals, you know, than just the standard like filtered water would. And once again, we got a vacuum on this. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and suck all the excess salt out of this, and then open this up, and then I can add it to soups or salads. I usually let this kind sit for like a week. I don't want it sitting in like the water forever, because if you let it sit in there too long, and once again, this is in the fridge, you know, the capers will start to degrade. So we don't want that to happen. You just want it long enough to pull out enough salt, and do frequent water changes. You know, if you want to change it once a day for the next 7 days, that's probably great. After 7 days, you probably won't taste too much salt in them. anymore. So that's pretty much it for this episode. I really wanted you guys to learn more about the caper berries, the best way to eat them to remove the salt, so you guys can get those beneficial, bioactive compounds that are contained within the capers. This is an up-and-coming superfood that pretty much nobody talks about. It takes some crazy raw food guy, my crazy antics, to try to take my diet to the next level to get new and unique different foods that have different kinds of fiber and different kind of nutrients that may be able to help my body out, prevent disease, and keep me healthy for many years to come. And that's what I want for each one of you guys. If you guys enjoyed this episode, want more videos like this where I go over unique and different foods that really nobody else talks about, please be sure to give this video a thumbs up. Also, please be sure to share this video with somebody else so that more people could be aware of literally capers that you could buy at your dollar store for $1, maybe at Walmart for $1.50, so that you guys could get some of these health benefits. Once again, I want to encourage you guys to eat these with other plant foods, and in larger quantities. I could use literally like this whole jar when I make big batches of soups or salads, for a week. I'll use like the whole jar. That's like nothing to me. So I want you guys to get these foods in a little bit higher quantities than just one or two as an hors d'oeuvre, right? It's my strong belief that these foods that contain different bioactive compounds, can provide us health benefits if eaten on a regular basis. Also, be sure to click that subscribe button right down below so you don't miss out on my new and upcoming episodes. I've come out every 5 to 7 days. You don't know where or sure or what you'll be learning on my YouTube channel that'll empower you to eat more fresh fruits and fresh vegetables and process minimally, so you guys get their health benefits. And make sure you click the bell to get notified as my new videos come out. And finally, be sure to check my past episodes. My past episodes are a wealth of knowledge. Over 600 episodes at this time on this YouTube channel dedicated to teaching you guys all about how to eat one of the healthiest plant-based diets on the entire planet. So with that, my name is John Kohler with OKRaw.com. We'll see you next time. And until then, remember, keep eating your fresh fruits and vegetables. They're always the best.